Welcome to the Do Life Well podcast. Join your host, Gavin Merwin, and his guests as they explore the nature of doing life well. Now, let's dive in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Do Life Well podcast. I'm your host, Gavin Merwin, and today I am joined with my good friend, Terry Moore, who's the CEO of the YOSS Platform and OneSource. And today's episode, releasing on May 1st, is titled Culture is Everything, How to Build It, Protect It, and Live It. We're going to dive into some fun stuff, but thanks for joining me.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Gavin. You're a lot of fun and always enjoy our time together.
Yeah. So take a minute in the opening. Who is Terry Moore? Talk about yourself, your history, your background, a little bit about us, and what does culture mean to you at the most basic level before we get into frameworks and strategy?
Yeah, it's interesting. For somebody like you would ask, who am I? What's Terry Moore? You probably know me as good as anybody. So it's, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and I'm a Christian, a believer in Jesus Christ, and more than anything, a friend. And I think that what we are internally, what we believe about ourselves, determines who we are externally. And I believe I'm a son, and one of the things I've had to learn to do is learn to be a son. You go through a lot of life and a lot of the shared experiences that I think a lot of men have. And we've talked about this before, that a lot of us have issues with the male figures in our lives, the dads, the people that have led us when we were younger. So, that's always been an interesting question. Who am I? I want to be the best friend that I can be. I want to be the best leader that I can be. And these other things are byproducts of what's inside of us. I have the title of CEO, but what does that mean? I'd rather be known and best to be known as who I am externally to people. And they say that a person is who he is when he's by himself, when he's in the dark, when no one's looking. And so a great leader creates change in people, that they behave a certain way when no one's around.
Yeah.
A manager, they'll behave that way only when the manager's around, but a leader actually conveys a way of culture, a way of doing life that people, it's indoctrination into a culture and a way of life. And so that's really what, I guess that's a long explanation of a short answer that you asked. So.
No, it's great. You hit on it some. I put down, most people think culture is a mission statement on the wall, but it's really not. So define in your own words, and you kind of already started, but what is culture? How do you define it? How do you know when you have it and when you don't have the one you intend?
Well, culture in many ways by definition is just a set of beliefs or shared belief systems and even rituals and or behaviors that are ingrained into a group of people. So a shared doctrine, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, I think that culture is at your core who you are and how you behave. So, and when you feel drained, you feel exhausted, you don't have energy, I think that's when you know that the culture's bad. Because if you've created a healthy culture, there should be enthusiasm, there should be excitement, there should be energy. You should not dread coming to work or going home or going to church. And it's interesting because we all know, where do we spend 8 to 12 hours a day? Sometimes for you it's 15 hours. You spend it at your job, and for men, a lot of times you're exhausted when you get home. But I would hate to know that it was just so draining here at work that you had no energy left for your family. So, I think a good culture creates an environment or an ecosystem where you work that you're thriving, you're happy, you're healthy, and when you go home, you still have something left over for your family.
You think, because I loved how you said, because I put down, culture is what happens when the leader leaves the room. I said, do you agree with that? Obviously you do. You talked about it. Do you think culture can come from anywhere other than the top? Does it always start with the leader?
I think it does. I've always heard the statement that the fish stinks at the head. And so I just think that the attitude that the leader has determines what happens throughout the organization. And I think it's just indicative. If you look, whether it's a church, whether it's a business, whether it's at home, leadership is so important. Leadership is not something that is taken lightly. And leadership doesn't mean, as we talked about earlier, it doesn't mean you're a CEO, you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a friend. And a good leader is someone that is consistent, that gives, a safe space. I think it does start at the head, Gavin. I think we've seen it. You can take politics and you look at a country, an entire country can be corrupt because the leader is corrupt. And you hate to single out anybody, but there's just inherently has seemed to have been a lot of corruption in a place like Ukraine. And so where's the leadership been? Obviously, the United States of America can have corruption and we can have issues, but I think that if a leader in an organization and or in a family or a church or any organization, even if it's a 501c3, a not-for-profit, a school, we work a lot in school districts. And what do we see? That leader sets the tone for that organization. And we've even talked about the fact that some school districts are just more fun to work in than others. And we believe it's a byproduct of who that leader is at the helm of that organization, because they set the tone. If when they walk in every day, people are afraid and they scramble to look busy, if they're not themselves or not comfortable. One of the things that we've never done here, and it's very intentional, we don't have a handbook. People can think that's crazy, but I think it's culture. And if I'm sitting in the Summit building, which happens to be right next door to some of the offices that we work out of, a lot of times people see me, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I want them to wave if they're 8:15 or 8:30 coming in. They're not having to sneak past me because it's 5 minutes after 8. To me, that's ridiculous. I believe our staff is so cultured to do such a great job that we're not worried about, are they taking an hour and 30 minutes for lunch, or did they have to run home and check on their kids? And they don't have to hide, they don't have to sneak. These types of things, it gets uncovered pretty quickly if you're not doing a good job. And I just don't believe that things like that have to be mandated, or even that you just have to have this rigorous check-in, check-out system if you have a good culture. Now again, every career, every job, depending on what you do, has different sets of rules and boundaries, and I understand that. But here, we want to give people latitude because we believe that they can really self-administer and maintain a level of integrity without having to have somebody keep an eye on them every day. So anyway, that's a long answer, but I think that it's important that we have an understanding of if we have to make people dot every I and cross every T and follow a rule book, then is it culture or is it a rule book?
Yeah, which is interesting because in the next section where I'd said, how do you build it? One of the practical questions I had was, what's the difference between values and behaviors? And why does that distinction matter? And that's kind of what you're hitting on around like the behavior of just being on time versus the value of the output. I don't know if you have anything else you want to expand on that question or not, but
I didn't mean to get ahead of it.
No, you're good. No, it's perfect. It's flowing right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
The difference just between values and behaviors.
Yeah. So, and I think that's what we were talking about just a minute ago is, it's really a value system, and we value people. We value family. We value health. We believe you should exercise. You should eat right. There should be some energy left over for your family when you go home. You shouldn't be exhausted when you leave. All of those things are, it's a value system, and it's a way that we want our organization to conduct itself. And, we jokingly, yesterday, it's funny, we were talking about when I'm 120, you'll be 90. And you're going to say, I wish that old buzzard would die, and I'm joking. But I was making the reference to the fact that everybody is going to be in such a good place emotionally, spiritually, financially, that it should be a celebration and not a bad thing. And I think if we've done our job correctly, culture continues way beyond us. And you can have systems, you can have protocols, you can have all of these organizational structures, but if you don't have good culture, it's not going to last, it's not going to matter. So, we can demand certain behaviors out of people. You have to be here at 8 o'clock, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's interesting because one of the gentlemen that just came on board with us, I believe it's called Lombardi time. If you're, not 10 minutes early, you're late. And I've never told him that, but I've sat here in the building numerous mornings, and he's here at about 10 till 8 pretty much every day. Those are the type of, and I did not know that was one of his behaviors when we hired him. But he just, to me, he exuded that. As we've gotten to know him over the last really 2 or 3 years that he's been a part of our church and a part of the ecosystem that's been built throughout our lives, that you just kind of felt like he would be a good fit, and sure enough, he has been.
Yeah, what other things do you look for when you're hiring somebody?
We've talked about this a lot in the past, but I want to know how you treat your wife. I want to know what you value. How do you see life in general? Do you see life? Is it about you? Is the focus always on what you've done, what you've accomplished, or is it about a bigger picture? How do you, when we have a conversation, when we talk to somebody, what language do they use to describe success? And if success is always built around money and things, and they want to tell you how many nice cars they have, or they want to talk about the size of their bank account and their 401k and what they've accomplished in their life monetarily, you're probably not a fit here. We believe that, and again, I don't want to over spiritualize anything, but we can never get away from our core culture and beliefs. and that's scriptural. The book of Proverbs, we've said it many times, that if you could strip out the entire Bible and just had the book of Proverbs, you could live by the book of Proverbs. And I know this is not a scripture, a specific scripture, but in the book of Proverbs, but it is a scripture. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things will be added. And we know the values of the kingdom and the fruit of the Spirit: love, gentleness, kindness, meekness, all those things. So that's what we're looking for. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you want me to keep going, if you want to move into something else, but
great.
I had somebody a number of years ago give me a book, and it was called The Culture of Honor, and I forget who wrote it, but it was interesting because I delayed reading it for a number of weeks, even a couple months, because I thought there was some language in there of something that I would shy away from. But once I read the book, it was amazing, because the book was really around confronting and having conversations that are difficult, and creating a culture of honor. And if you honor me and I honor you, and we have a culture of honor, that means that if I've done something, knowing or unknowing, that offends you and specifically has created anxiety or anxiousness or has hurt you in some way, or disappointed you, that you feel comfortable enough because of the culture that is created in a particular environment, that you feel comfortable that you would come to me and say, hey, that what you said really upset me, and I'd like for us to talk about that. Well, that's healthy. That's a culture of honor, that you feel honored enough that you know that that's not going to cause a rift between us. And I think we've had that happen several times. Probably more people coming to me saying, you said something stupid, and I don't know, did you mean that? Or, oh man, hey man, I appreciate the fact that you feel comfortable enough in this ecosystem to be able to come to the so-called leader of the organization and have a very candid, open conversation. To me, that's so important.
Yeah, I love that. Talk to me about an abundance mindset as a cultural foundation. What does a scarcity culture look like versus an abundance culture?
That can be a touchy subject, because you can think, well, because you have an abundance mindset, you can just go spend all the money you want, or you can buy things you can't afford, or you have a license to live a certain way that the financial condition of your home, your income, your organization, it doesn't support it. But you're like, oh, well, I'm going to have an abundance mindset, so I'm going to go buy whatever. It doesn't matter. You can say a menu of items, but that's not an abundance mindset, that you can go buy anything you want at any time, or you can do anything you want at any time. An abundance mindset is always knowing that there's plenty. You may be in a season in life where you're having to be a bit more aware of your financial situation, or maybe you're not in a place where you want to be with your relationships. But I just personally believe that abundance is an issue of access. And if you understand what you have access to, and again, you don't want to always take everything spiritual, but we have access to the mind of Christ. We have access to the throne of God. We have access to the King of Kings, who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. So even though my circumstances around me are not producing abundance at the moment, it doesn't mean that I can't live in an abundance mindset. And scarcity is fear. It's holding on. It's afraid to give. I'm not going to have enough if I do this. The what ifs. Well, what if everything works out? What if we do get that next contract? Well, if you're constantly living, I just think there's fear and then there's faith, if you will. But scarcity is constant position or mindset of fear.
Yeah.
And I just don't believe that if you live in fear that you're ever going to accomplish the things that that you were put here on the earth to accomplish. One of the great men that I've followed for years upon years, you joked with me over a decade ago, because I was back then, we didn't have this unlimited, whatever it was called, I don't know.
With the data.
The data, on our phone systems. And so I was fussing, saying, well, who's using all the data? Who's using all the data? And he said, well, it's you, and you're the one. I said, well, I'm listening to Les Brown.
Yeah.
And so Les Brown has a statement that he makes, and he's just a great speaker. He's a great man, and he's been around for a long, long time. But one of the things that he says that it just really resonated with me, he said, when you're lying on your deathbed, if all of the spirits, if you will, of all of the things that you haven't accomplished are standing around your deathbed, the ideas, if you will, are standing around your deathbed, and they're saying, because you never tried, I'll die with you. And so all these ideas, all these dreams, so all these dreams that were specifically given to you for you to accomplish in your span of time that you're here on the earth, all die with you, and they're all standing there staring at you as you're on your deathbed, saying, if you would have just tried, we could have done this, or we could have come. I would hate to know that those dreams are all going to die with me.
Sure.
And those ideas. So I would rather die trying. And what do we say? Shoot for the moon. If you miss, you just land among the stars.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think just it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of, we've gone through ups and downs, good times and bad times. We've had challenges, but we've never not believed that our future is better than our past. And I think that's another way of saying that's an abundance mindset. That's a Dan Sullivan statement. There's nothing new under the sun. We're always borrowing cliches and statements and mindsets and ways of thinking. And we have to believe that our future is bigger than our past. You and I were together in the last couple of days, and we were riding down the road, and I said, look at this windshield. Look how big this windshield is. And then look at this rear view mirror. And the rear view mirror is tiny by comparison to the windshield. We do not live out of the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
We live out of the windshield. I can't help my past. I can't help what happened yesterday. I have no control of that. But I do have some say in what I do today.
Sure.
And so I think always having a mindset of hope and believing that our future is better and bigger than our past.
Talking about how you protect culture, because it can be fragile. In your mind, what are the biggest threats to a healthy culture, and which one do leaders underestimate the most?
Yeah, I think the people you surround yourself with, I think it's very important. And I think that if you allow people in your organization that undermines that culture, and you give ground for peace, I'm just going to keep peace. I'm not going to confront that behavior. I think it's very, very dangerous, and I think that it's overlooked a lot of times because nobody wants to be the bad guy, man. nobody, if you have any sense of just common sense, you don't go around looking to pick fights. You're not looking to find stuff wrong with people and you're the guy that's pointing it out. Nobody wants to be the bad guy all the time.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you're unwilling to confront certain behaviors and you just let things continue and you don't address issues, so once you realize an individual is not a good fit for your organization and they seem unwilling to change and adapt to or adopt your belief system and your culture. We talk about an ecosystem. A culture is also an ecosystem. And if you have a healthy culture, then you have an ecosystem where everybody thrives. And the ocean is the greatest example of an ecosystem. There's everything from the tiniest of an amoeba or some type of a fish or whatever it is that dwells in the ocean, all the way to the monstrosity of a whale. And a whale may eat plankton or whatever that whale is eating. And so everything thrives inside of that ecosystem. And it's not, if it's good for one person and one person has success and one person is eating all of the resources, then everybody else is barely getting by. That's not a healthy ecosystem and that's not a healthy culture. So I think protecting that ecosystem and that culture and being willing to have tough, difficult conversations. And then if somebody doesn't fit, they don't fit. And we give them an opportunity to go somewhere where they can be successful.
Yeah.
And so, that's a way of looking at it. Hey, I don't think you can be all you're called to be here in this organization. So we're going to let you go somewhere that you can be as successful as you can possibly be. Isn't that a nice way of firing somebody?
Very nice.
So,
very nice.
I think that protecting that is so important, and I think just a general awareness every single day of what are you creating, what's coming out of your mouth that is building people up, that's allowing for people to thrive. Do people feel protected and safe? And if someone outside of your organization, and whether it's a client or whomever it is, and they have a negative energy or they have a complaint about our organization, do we protect the organization? We address the fact that we're not perfect and maybe the complaint is real and it's a viable mistake that we made. We deal with that and we keep moving. But we've had to fire clients before because they weren't a good fit for us. So I think that's part of protecting that culture.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good example of you have to protect the culture even if it costs you revenue. And it's like the organization and its culture is more important than that one client that we did have to let go because they were kind of toxic and they were bringing negative impacts to our culture. And like, it's worth too much. We're not going to let you do that to us.
100%.
I thought this was interesting. How do you keep culture alive when you're scaling and can't be everywhere at once?
Well, it's difficult. It really is. And I think some of that we deal with now. And I think scaling and controlling that scale, and we call it 10xing, we call it whatever you want to call it, but it's growth. It's growing your organization while not relaxing your standards. And I think it's very important that we think about how fast we're growing, what are those clients, and I've seen that if you explain who you are to people and you're very clear as to what it is that you are delivering as a product, as you scale and as you grow, and you set those expectations, then I think it is possible to protect that culture as you grow. I think that you're going to have to hire people. For us, we believe AI is a big part of that, but that's tough. It really is, and I think it's the balancing act for every organization. And where is enough? Is it 100 million? Is it 500 million? Is it $1 billion? Who knows? I mean, it's just a number anyway. But one of the things that we always want to be able to do is if we make a promise or a commitment to a client, that we meet and exceed that expectation, because we're the ones that set it. Or we tell them, hey, this is not a full service product. It's a do-it-yourself product. And so I think communicating clearly what the expectations are for that new potential client can help preserve that. And we know, as we've been out in the software business, you hear time and time again that salespeople set these expectations for the client because they're trying to make a sale, and those expectations are not met, which means you have failed expectations, unmet expectations, and because of that, they're unhappy.
Yeah.
And then here's what we know is one unhappy client tells 100 people.
Yeah.
One happy client tells 10.
Yeah.
And so that's the rule of sales, And at the end of the day, I mean, we're salespeople. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's software, if it's financial services, if it's benefits, if it's culture. You're selling a culture, and if people want to be a part of that, so in some respects, in some levels, we're selling and talking about who we are, because you only can give people who you are. If you're not that internally, you can't deliver that to somebody. You can't build what you think. You have to build who you are.
Yeah, I love that. Applying it at home and the individual standard. So opening the door for every listener who isn't a CEO. We've kind of talked about your home is certainly an organization. So to the mom or dad listening, they lead a household. Do you think all these same rules apply?
100%. I would say this. For me, I'm a fraud, a 100% fraud, if I don't practice this at home.
Yeah.
If I'm not behaving, and again, here's what we know, that's the toughest place to live it out. It's actually tougher than on the job.
Sure.
Because you're tired, you go home, you're tired of serving all day.
Sure.
And you're like, oh, now you need to serve even more.
Sure.
For you, you're going home to a wife and 2 kids, and your wife pulled up earlier and she brought you a coffee, and I said, come on girls, let's get out. And Jess is so kind. She said, no, we just saw him earlier. Is he still on the phone call? I said, yeah, he is. No, we're not coming in. And I was like, no, y'all come in. No, we're not gonna do that. So, serving at home, and we know philosophically how we operate up here, and it's lead like a servant, serve like a king.
Yeah.
And that is difficult. It really is difficult. And when you get home, you're exhausted. You've had a tough day. For men, we have, whatever the people tell us, we have like 10,982 words, and we've used 10,980.
Yeah.
And when we get home, we don't have a lot of words left over.
Sure.
And the wife has been with the kids all day, and she's ready for some adult conversation.
Sure.
And we just want to pick up the remote and veg out.
Sure. Sure.
It's just how it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think
that's an opportunity to build culture.
It is. I've been
Maybe
very
either a culture of we veg out, or our culture we don't.
That's right.
As a family.
That's right. No, I've been married 34 years, and when the kids are small, it's tough because you're really busy. And it's interesting. We're empty nesters now, and you have to be very intentional. I think culture is very, very intentional, and so now I have to be intentional about making sure I protect this next phase of life with my wife and I. In life, we know it's about different phases and times and seasons, and if your culture is a part of every phase of life, and just because you're in a different phase of life, you're going to look up 10 years from now and your girls are going to be in their teens and you're going to have new challenges. It's not going to be, hey, we want to crawl into bed with mom and dad and snuggle, or I'm scared and I want to get into bed with you. It's going to be, hey, I want to stay the night off, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And they're not going to want to talk to you. So that's going to be a new phase of life. So what you put in them, the culture of your home, is going to determine, because the truth of it is if all of a sudden you flip this switch when they're 13 and you're this super dad, they're going to like, who is this stranger?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a fraud. Sure. So it has to be something that is just permeated throughout your entire life. It can't be, a lot of times you'll see children and they know mom and dad are not a certain way at home, but when they get in public, they're this, super parent or super person, and you're like, who is this? You're a fraud,
Sure.
I know I've used that word 2 or 3 times, but it's funny because I heard Troy Aikman say that. Troy's, I want to say my age, and he was an incredible quarterback and won several Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, and he is as fit today as he's ever been. And he just made the statement. He said, if I'm talking about being fit and I'm not actually doing it, I'm a fraud. Mm-hmm. And so he said, I have to work at it, So, yeah, and I think for us, it's being true to who we are, and we believe in health, we believe in fitness, we believe in a certain way of doing life, and even your podcast, right? The doing life well.
Yeah.
I think that's culture. I think doing life well is a culture, and doing life well means all aspects of life. It's not segregated to work or home or the children. It's doing life well means your whole life. It's how you do relationships. It's how you do your spouse. It's how you do your children. It's doing life well. It's not doing fragments or pieces of your life well. It's the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like, kind of the thought I'm having is culture is a culmination of a million small things.
Oh, that's so good.
And Absolutely. It's like, it's really hard, like when someone says, how do you build it? How long does it take? And how do you protect it? And all those things. And it's like, I can't really point you to one thing, but I can point you to a million different things,
100%.
My house, we're not going to live in fear. We're not going to be in a hurry. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We do this on this part of the week, but there's little small things that, as a culmination, build what is the culture of our house and what is the culture of our organization.
And when you feel yourself drifting, I think to that point, because you'll drift. I mean, what do you call it? Something drift, mission drift?
Yeah, mission drift.
Mission drift. So, you've got a certain project you're working on and it drifts. Well, there's always got to be somebody in that project that says, hey, we got some drift here. That's not what we said we really wanted to accomplish. Yeah. So let's get back on track. Yeah. So I me personally, my philosophy, that's Dad's responsibility. That's who we are as men, is if we have mission drift in our homes, if we have mission drift in who we are as an organization, who are we personally, then we look at ourselves, hey, I'm drifting. And I think
I don't think perfection's the standard. I think awareness is.
Oh my gosh. That's a powerful statement. I love that.
Yeah.
I'll put that in my notes and use that. Say that again.
Yeah, it's just talking about mission drift, and it's perfection's not the standard, awareness is.
100%.
And as dads and husbands, as leaders, I think it's our responsibility to have an awareness to the fact that we've drifted from our culture that we fought so hard for. Get back on it. You don't have to be perfect every single day, but you can't be bad 2 days in a row. You got to get back after it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that thought. That's so powerful. Just awareness, not perfection, man. Because and here's what we know: there was one perfect person. His name is Jesus.
That's right.
The rest of us, we're all trying to become more like Him.
That's exactly right.
And we know that's a daily. I don't want to call it a daily fight, because it's not a fight. It's actually a death.
Yeah.
It's a daily dying to yourself.
Sure.
That's so good. And awareness, just being aware of the fact that, hey, this is not what my mission is that I have for my life, my family, my business, my health, and I'm drifting.
Yeah.
And that's so good. I like that.
Yeah, I read in the book, Michelangelo did the sculpture of David, and they're like, "How did you sculpt this David sculpture?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just removed everything that wasn't David."
That's exactly right.
And then, that's what you're saying. You're dying to yourself. You're dying to your desires. You're dying to it. It's just, here's who I want to be and the culture I want to have, and everything that's not that, it's got to be carved away, one little chisel at a time.
That's so good. Love that.
Kind of just, beginning to wrap up, I had a question. If someone's listening right now and they just know, like, this is kind of strung a chord in them, they know their culture, whether that's at work or home or wherever they're at, it just isn't what it needs to be. What would you say is like a practical first step?
Yeah, I think what you just said is so good, and I think just to really just dovetail off of that is just, hey, I'm aware. Okay, well, here's what we know. We want to begin to turn the ship a little at a time, because one of the things that we know does not work is if you're going in one direction and you're like, I'm going to go 100% in the other direction. Well, for example, we know the journey of exercise. What happens? You haven't exercised in 20 years. You go to the gym and you hit every machine. You're in there for 2 hours, and the next day you can't walk, can't move. You're never going back.
That's right.
It's what happens, And so there's so much of life that's like that. So when you take that perspective and you say, well, I've started to drift. I'm not who I want to be. What small changes can I begin to make? Well, I need to think different. And how you think is a byproduct of your behavior.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about? What are you reading? So just finding, I think, positive and uplift, and it's so interesting because in today's ecosystem or environment or the world we live in today, my gosh, YouTube, podcasts, there's, audible books. If you want a resource, it is quite literally today at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So there's really no excuse. Today in the 21st century in 2026, you have no excuses, do you? It's like, no, that's not true. You're not looking, you're not trying, because there's so many resources available to us. So I think just make a small change and make a very conscious effort to say, okay, I'm not where I want to be. I see that I've drifted, or maybe I just want to start this journey. And I really have heard something, on this podcast. This is not, and you know how it is, most of this stuff, it's not a new thought. You've heard it somewhere else, and now they've listened to the Doing Life Well podcast, and it's just adding to, it's another brick. I've heard this is another brick and another brick and another brick.
Sure.
I'm going to really take some action. Well, again, if it's a book, if it's a podcast, if it's whatever it is, try to take some small action every day. And I'm a firm believer that prayer is a big part of that. Lord, show me, just prick my heart and help me move in a direction that makes me a better person, and help me grow into being the person that you want me to be. And, God is faithful. And the great thing is there's a big difference in conviction and condemnation.
Sure.
And hopelessness, and kind of what we were talking about earlier, the idea of scarcity and abundance. I think there's no condemnation ever. And if you're convicted about a certain lifestyle or way of doing things, that's healthy. That's a healthy conviction. And then I think to begin to move in that direction with whatever tools you have, prayer, get up 5 minutes early, get up 10 minutes early, prepare yourself for the day. Little things like that matter a lot more than people think. Don't always be in a rush.
Yeah.
Don't always show up somewhere late. Don't always have a last minute approach to doing things. And, one of the things we heard years ago is don't make excuses. Well, I'm sorry I was late. I got caught by the train and the kids wouldn't get together. My goodness, if they just do. No, hey, own it. I'm late. I apologize. I'll do better next time. We don't need your excuses.
Yeah.
And most of all, you don't need your excuses. Just own it. It's all good. And so I think just getting to a place where you don't feel like you're constantly making excuses, and just own where you're at, and then realize I've got to make small changes.
Yeah, and I know what I'm about to ask, we've pretty much covered through the whole thing in an expanded version, but in a condensed kind of closing thought, what does doing life well mean to you?
I think living a healthy, whole, uncompartmentalized life. It's a whole life. It's not sectioned off. It's not work, church, family. It's the whole life. It's the whole man, spirit, soul, and body. So it's not this piecemeal way of doing life. Doing life well, it's not a part of life. It's not a piece of life. It means I'm working on my finances every day. It means I'm working on my mindset. It means I'm working on my heart. I'm working on my spirituality. I'm working on my relationships. I'm working on my relationship with my spouse, my relationship with my children. There's nothing off limits. It's life.
Yeah.
There's no segmented, fractured part of it.
Sure.
So it's what is life? Life is everything. It's what we do every day. It's everything that we do. I can't get to the red light or the stop sign, and because somebody shoots in front of it quicker than me, maybe give them the middle finger.
Yeah.
That's not doing life well.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and that's a simple thing, but to me, it's the holistic approach to life. It's being kind. It's being gentle. It's caring about people and where they're at, and seeing people and actually, do you care? Do you care that they're going through a tough time?
Sure.
Or is it just about me?
Yeah.
And what I can get out of life? That's, to me, doing life well, because there's no way your spirit man is healthy if you're constantly focused on yourself.
Sure.
And so it's the ability to say, this life is not about me. It's not about me. It's about how I serve well. If I'm doing life well, I'm serving well. And so to me, that's how we do life well. And that's a culmination of all the little things, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I love that. I always like to give space at the end. If there's anything else I didn't specifically ask that you wanted to cover, and if not, that's totally okay too. But I always just give space for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, I'll take a minute really and talk about you and your family and what you guys have accomplished. And you know, you have you run all of the software platform, and you know the culture there is based on how you think, how you operate, how you manage people, whether it's managing the overseas team, the local team, your ability to bounce back and forth in different projects that we have going in other parts of the company. So, you know, as a 31-year-old entrepreneur, leader, it's important for you to do life well. And just watching you has been such a blessing to me. And then, you know, you interact with other people your age and how you manage relationships, being aware of those relationships. That's really important. And you know, I think one of the things that you have done well is that you feed inside of the ecosystem that you're in, and then you give back to that ecosystem. And I think that a willingness to give back to the ecosystem is so important. Give back into that culture is very, very important. And it's not being a taker. It's not what do I get out of this? It's what can I give back into this? So yeah, I think that even, you know, your commitment to the podcast, being consistent with it, you know, the consistency in your life is very impressive. So yeah, I'm you know, I wanted to take a minute and brag on you and what you do. Very impressive. You know, you pressed through today after a busy day, and we're here at 5 o'clock doing the podcast. So yeah, very impressive. But yeah, man, it's always a joy to watch young men that are actually making an attempt. You know, I look at you and all these other men that are around me, and it's just so exciting to watch them do life and to see them care, to see them love their wives well. You know, some of them are, you know, their wives are pregnant and they're entering into this phase of life, and it's so funny to watch that happen. You know, it's really cool. Yeah. And then we have other friends that they're on their 5th child, or you know, they're at a different phase of their life, and you know, we're so blessed, really. And I think, you know, I've heard people say, they've made a statement, you know, you guys live in a bubble, but we've created that bubble, and it's been very intentional. Yeah. And I think the way you guys protect and value that bubble that we live in that ecosystem, and the way you value it, it's so encouraging and heartwarming, and there's such a sense of accomplishment for me in that, because it's like, this thing can work, you know, and what you do does matter, and your efforts do mean something. Yeah. And so you just look around and you see, wow, you know, we talk about the gap in the game, right? And if you're always just seeing the gap, you know, where you've got to get, what you haven't done, what you haven't accomplished. I'm not as far along, but if you stop and you look back over the last 24, 36, or 60 months, and you're like, my gosh, we've come a long ways, man. We've done well in our families and in our homes, and you know what's happened. It's funny because that miracle that awed us 6 months ago is common now. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And I think not letting these things become common to us, yeah, you know, we're sitting in a building that a year ago was a dump.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And today it's, people walk in it, that we've had a few conferences in here, and they're absolutely enamored and blown away with it. And we should never let it become common.
Yeah.
So I think for you guys watching your accomplishments, and it's just so many people in your culture, in your ecosystem, in your sphere, if you will, of influence that you guys operate in, if it's 10, 15, 20 men and people are moving in and out of that sphere, that you guys have done such a great job with that, and so encouraged by that. So yeah, I think more men and families need to be a part of what you and your wife, Jess, and y'all's band of brothers and families have been able to create. It's just a beautiful thing. And yeah, if I was 31, I'd be jealous, want to be a part of it. So yeah, just very encouraged and just honored to watch you guys do life well. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's looking forward to the next 60 years.
Love that. Yeah. Well, and hey, what I'm sitting here thinking too, what's so cool about it is it's not exclusive. You know,
It's not.
It's just, you know, and no one's arrived by no means, but it is a million little decisions. You know, kind of like what we talked about, what builds culture and what builds things, a million little things. There's no one big thing. It's not magic. It doesn't happen overnight, and you can't just wish for it to change and it change, you know. But I truly believe it's available to anybody that will use those resources you mentioned some of, and build relationships and just make their mind up that they're going to live a life of excellence. I think it's available to everybody.
100% it is. Yeah, and it's a decision. So yeah, and you guys y'all do that well. Y'all make decisions well, and you decide there's directions you want to go in with your life, and you don't want to live in chaos and turmoil and constant conflict. And so there's a very intentional effort that goes with that. So you guys are to be commended, and it's like I said, it's just a privilege and an honor to be a part of that. And so again, look forward to many, many years to come.
Yeah, well, you taught us well.
Well, I don't know so much about that. Y'all are easy, man. If I was as pliable and moldable and teachable as you guys are at y'all's age, I would not have as many scars and bumps that I've got. So you guys have been a lot of fun, and I love doing life with y'all.
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been awesome. Hope you've enjoyed it. Until next month, keep doing life well. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on the Do Life Well podcast, where we explore topics like fatherhood, business, health, wellness, and so much more. With each episode, we aim to inspire and guide you in embracing the art of doing life well. If you found value in today's conversation, please leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time, continue the journey of doing life well.